Assalamu alaikum, my name is Joe Bradford and welcome to Inside My Library. Today we'll be talking about this book. It's an Arabic title called al-Seera al-Nabawiyyah by al-Sallabi, which is basically the prophetic biography. It's a rather large book and we'll talk a bit about its pluses and minuses. But first, if this is your first time here, I do book reviews every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe to my channel below and enable the alerts to be able to get the latest videos. So back to this book. The full title is al-Seera al-Nabawiyyah 'Ard Waqai' wa Tahleel Ahdath, which translates to the prophetic biography, a presentation and analysis of events. The author is Ali Muhammad al-Sallabi, born in 1963 in Benghazi, Libya. He's a religious scholar and a politician. He was arrested during the Gaddafi regime, then left Libya and studied Islam in Saudi Arabia and Sudan during the 90s. He then went to Qatar and he studied under Yusuf al-Qaradawi, the spiritual head of the Muslim Brotherhood, and then returned to Libya in 2011 at the overthrow of Gaddafi. This book has its highs and its lows. Some of the high points of this book are the very meticulous manner in which the chronology is laid out for the reader, making references to specific incidents in the Seerah that much easier for the reader and the researcher. So this is definitely a plus. It's also very well referenced from both primary and secondary sources. One of the lows, however, has to be the manner in which the author concludes each subsection with his conclusions and epiphanies about the incidents in the Seerah and their supposed effect on those that were there at that time, as well as the lessons to be learned from the incident. There's a lot of assumption that goes into those. Some of these lessons are derived from classical works, others from more modern works, and others still from the author himself. These lessons learned and the sections lean heavy on the side of political and social activism, and the author's Muslim Brotherhood connections and ideological roots can clearly be ascertained from these parts of the book, at least for those that know what the Muslim Brotherhood is all about. One such place, I'll use this one example, that really stood out to me clearly was his description of the period of ad-Da'wat al-Sirriya, or the secret call, after the first revelation came down to the Prophet. His word choice and descriptions of this period paint the picture of a burgeoning political movement operating in a clandestine fashion, creating a base known as Dar al-Nadwa and an ideological curriculum used in training of new recruits. And this is something that is not known from the text, and it's a terribly vacuous way of describing the early proselytization efforts of the Prophet Muhammad and his companions and his preaching. There's a stark difference between privately proselytizing, ad-Da'watu sirran, and engaging in a secret proselytization program, or ad-Da'wat al-Sirriya. It seems that some modern activist authors, especially during the Islamic identity movements of the early modern period, read the phrase da'ahum sirran, he called them privately, and understood it anachronistically. They thought that it meant some sort of clandestine activity similar to what was happening in their times with political and social movements that was causing upheaval at that time. These narrations about how Abu Bakr himself came to Islam contradict this idea. He was one of the earliest people to accept Islam, and the story falsifies the idea of there being a clandestine or secret call. Islam was no secret, as Ibn Kathir mentions in al-Bidayah wa Nihaya from Yunus and Ibn Ishaq, that Abu Bakr, after hearing about Islam from prominent people of Quraysh, approached the Prophet and said, "Is it true of what I hear of you leaving off our deities, insulting our intellect, and rejecting our forefathers?" He replied, "It's true. I am God's messenger and prophet, commanded to call people to the truth." He read the Quran to Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr rejected the false idols of the Jahiliyyah, returned to his people as a believer, affirming what he had heard. So this, as well as other incidents in early Islam, showed that Islam was known publicly, but there was no public preaching. This is a huge difference that has been ignored and has led to the politicization of Islamic teaching in a very dangerous way. Another downside of the book is how it oscillates between narrative and exposition, which makes it hard to follow the narrative. A book in Arabic that follows the narrative style much better is Muhammad Haykal's work, and a book in English that follows the narrative style better is Martin Ling's. I'll try to do reviews of both of those at a later time. All in all, it's a good addition to your library, but the conclusions that he makes should be taken with a grain of salt and compared with other scholars' conclusions on the topic before being presented as the be-all, end-all and definitive meaning of the events that are found in the Seerah. Thanks for watching. If you've read this book or have a similar title that you think may be a better read, let me hear about it from you in the comments, and I'll see you next time inside my library.